Naming and organizing your files and directories is really critical. If you have a system for storing files, you'll be able to find files when you need them much more quickly. All the data on your computer system is stored on your hard drive, or drives, since you can have multiple hard drives attached to your system. Part of finding your data is knowing which drive your files are on. Each drive is identified by a letter. The first hard drive is drive C. The next is drive D, and so on. Drives A and B are reserved for floppy disk drives, even though no one uses them anymore. If you plug in an external CD, DVD drive, or a thumb drive, they become part of this convention. Aside from the drive, you also need to know the directory the file is in and the name of the file. A file is a named set of related data. It might be a document, a picture, a video, a music recording, really any kind of data that can be stored electronically. A directory is a file that contains information about other files. These other files may in turn be standard files, directories, or a mix of standard files and directories. The information a directory holds includes the name of each file, its size, and a pointer to the disk sectors where the data for the file is found, and more. Sometimes directories are called folders. The starting point for the whole file system on a disk is called the root directory. It's just the drive itself. Generally, you don't want your standard files in the root directory. You want to put your standard files in a directory with a name that is descriptive of the files held in that directory. So we better start with the rules. There are extensive rules for file names, some of which are pretty arcane. What follows is a subset of all file name rules, such that if you follow these rules, your name will be allowed. File names should be constructed using the alphanumeric characters, A through Z, 0 through 9, and these special characters, @, pound sign, $, %, ampersand, left paren, right paren, dash, underscore, period, and space, or blank. There are a few other special characters you can use, but they can cause problems in some situations, so this list will always work and be safe. Also, file names are case insensitive. That is, uppercase A and lowercase a are considered to be the same. So a file name of scraps, all lowercase, is the same as scraps with uppercase S at the front, and so on. This also applies to drive letters. Uppercase C and lowercase c represent the same drive. While spaces are allowed, I do not use spaces in file names I construct. There are times having a space in a file name requires the use of bounding quotes, which is one more thing to think about, so why bother? Instead of spaces, I use the dash or underscore characters, or sometimes I use what is called camel case, where the first letter of each word in the name is capitalized. Some examples: agenda underscore September underscore 2017 underscore meeting, or agenda dash September dash 2017 dash meeting, or camel case agenda September 2017 meeting. And finally, some people think the first word should not be capitalized in camel case, so here's an example of that. Characters after the last period in a file name make up the file name extension. A file name does not have to have an extension, but if it does, Windows uses the extension to guess what kind of data the file contains and which application program should be used to work with the file. For example, agenda September 2017 meeting.txt, txt, is assumed to contain plain text and should be processed using Notepad. More on this in the next video. A fully qualified file name is composed of the path and the file name. For example, that is, the drive letter followed by a colon, then a backward slash followed by the first level directory, then subdirectories each preceded by a backward slash, then finally the file name, possibly with an extension. For example, c:\sistercities\Takayama\stories.txt, or c:\pubs_10\G200\G200lecture.pdf. The maximum length for a fully qualified file name is around 240 characters. File names and directory names should be short but descriptive. The following file names are reserved and should not be used as file names nor extensions for your directories and files. CON, PRN, AUX, NUL, then COM1 through COM9, and LPT1 through LPT9. Now, the primary tool used to locate a file is Windows File Explorer, which has an icon in the taskbar. Since the icon is in the taskbar, it is launched with a single click on the icon. Since this is our first formal exposure to any application, let's take a minute to point out a few things that are consistent to all applications. An application is run in a window, thus the name of the operating system. The top line of the window is the title line. It describes where you are. On the right are three icons. The dash, when clicked, minimizes the window. The application is still running, it is just not shown on the screen. The square, when clicked, maximizes the window. The window fills the screen and the square becomes two squares. Click this and the window returns to its pre-maximized size. The X, when clicked, stops the application and closes the window. You can position the window by dragging the title line and by moving the cursor down to the lower right corner and tugging, you can resize the window. Next, examine the second line, the menu line. For File Explorer, there are these choices: File, Computer, View, each of which we'll examine in a minute. And on the right side, two images, an upward pointing caret and a question mark in a circle. Clicking the caret makes the next line, the ribbon, collapse. Then the caret becomes a downward pointing caret, which returns the ribbon on being clicked. Clicking the question mark in a circle takes you to Microsoft Windows Internet Help page for File Explorer. They do a pretty good job on this page, so if you're curious about some of the options we don't discuss, take a look at it. The contents of the ribbon are not much interest first, but when we get deeper into it, this changes. Below the ribbon is a line showing where the File Explorer is currently positioned. Again, when we get deeper, the current path will be shown here. In the body of the File Explorer window are two panels. The left-hand panel is used for navigation to drives and directories. The right-hand panel shows the contents of the current directory. Looking at the navigation panel, I have no use for quick access nor OneDrive. If you hover the cursor over this PC, you will see a downward pointing caret. In general, when you see a right-pointing caret next to an item, it means there are subdirectories in that item. If you see a downward-pointing caret, it means the directory has been expanded to show the next level of subdirectories. So clicking the caret toggles expanding and contracting the directory list. If there is no caret next to an entry, then you are at the deepest level of subdirectories for the path. Below this PC are a list of directories that Windows provides for storing various categories of files. Do not be tempted to use them. Pretty soon they will hold a mishmash of files and you'll have trouble finding the ones you need at any point in time. What I care about for this course is the appearance of any hard drives. we just see local disk C: here, so click on the right pointing caret to see the first level of directories. On other Windows systems, you might see something other than local disk C: On my wife's HP system, it just says Windows, which I found confusing. Notice how directories are named here. Generally, you can name directories based on content or the application used to access the files. For example, a directory named Sister Cities International would be presumed to have all kinds of files related to that organization, whereas a directory named Microsoft Office probably contains files all of which were created using that product. Naming subdirectories then helps you to differentiate and group files in an orderly way based on function or date or file type, depending on the situation. Generally, I believe you should organize directories and files based on content rather than the software used to create the content. After all, an interesting application is likely to contain files of multiple types: text, music, videos, spreadsheets, web pages, and more. In an upcoming video, we'll show you how to create directories and how to put files in them so they are organized. But for right now, I'd like to examine File Explorer a little bit more. I'm going to jump to a directory of mine on the C drive, Trainer's Friend Web, and within that, the directory Takayama, and within that, the directory 2017 CCB. That contains files for a website I built to support a trip to Japan we called Chasing Cherry Blossoms in 2017, thus the name of the directory, 2017 CCB for Chasing Cherry Blossoms. Anyway, this directory contains the following subdirectories: CGIs, for CGI programs for this trip, and that's discussed in a later course. Images, for pictures relating to this trip. Music, some sample MP3 files of Japanese music. Sound files, pronunciation of Japanese words and phrases. Style parts, images for painting the web pages for this trip. And travelers, pictures of the people traveling on this trip. Now, if I click on, say, Travelers in the navigation pane, it shows me the list of files in the Contents pane. Several things to notice here. In the very top line of the window, the current path is shown in the traditional style. So there's the drive, and then Trainer's Friend Web, and Takayama, and 2017 CCB, and Travelers. The second line of the window, the menu line, has a different set of choices: File, Home, Share, View, Manage. The ribbon area has many more choices than we saw before, and in the line below the ribbon area, we see the current path in a slightly different style. In the right-hand pane is the list of files, with a header line at the top naming the columns that are on display. Which columns are shown can help you make decisions about what to do. Older files may be deleted, perhaps, or smaller files could be sent as attachments to emails. To change the columns shown, first select the View menu. Notice you have 8 choices and Details is selected. And to the right, you can see a choice Add Columns. This is slightly misleading because you can use this choice to add and remove columns in the display. Under Add Columns is a list of candidate columns, and the currently selected columns are checked. At the bottom is an option, Choose Columns. If you select this, you will see a long list of column choices to select, and you can change the order of columns in your display. I recommend this list of columns in this order: name, date modified, not date, and size. Here, I'll demonstrate the process of how you can make that happen. First, I don't want date and I don't want type, so I'll unclick those and I'll close it and bring it out again, and you'll see just size. Name is always checked, by the way, you can't uncheck it. So now I want to go down to date modified. There it is. And I'll click OK and close it again, and then when I open it, it's refreshed. And what I want to do is move date modified up, so I'll just click that. And now I have name, date modified, and size. So that's the selection of columns I want, and that's what you see here. Once you've gotten these columns chosen, you can change the width of each column by dragging on the separator. Next, notice that above one column is a caret. This indicates which column is the column the display is sorted on. An upward pointing caret indicates ascending sequence. A downward pointing caret indicates descending sequence. Clicking in a column header makes that column the sort column. Clicking the sort column header reverses the sort order. Also, at the bottom of the left-hand corner is a count of the number of items in the directory. In part 2 of this session, we explore how to set defaults for File Explorer and the various menu choices when exploring a drive, a directory, and a file, including how to build your directory structure. See you there.